Hello, in this video I will walk you through the creation of a multi-node Hadoop cluster using Ansible. It will have a master node and 2 data nodes. Some things that I'll cover in this video include creating the 3 servers using Vagrant and VirtualBox. I'll install and configure Hadoop using Ansible. I'll start the Hadoop services and run an example MapReduce job. Some of the things I don't plan to cover in this video include how to install Vagrant and VirtualBox, or how Vagrant and VirtualBox work. I'll include links on the articles that I show you so that you can find more details about that, but for now all I'm covering is how to create a multi-node Hadoop cluster using Ansible. For reference, I'm running this experiment on a smoking hot HP laptop. It has a Core i7 processor with virtualization enabled, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and running Windows 8. Full details about the steps that I'm following in this video can be found on my website at software.danielwatrous.com, and all of the Ansible scripts I'll be using are available on GitHub in a repository that you can go and fork. The steps I'll be showing today mostly follow the quick start. So I've already cloned the repository, and as you can see, the next step being to download the Hadoop binary and place it in roles common templates. Roles common templates. I already have that in place there. Now we need to open up a command window and change into the directory. So here I am, and you can see the listing there. And don't let this throw you off. Even though I do LL in a Windows console, I'm just using Core Utils, which is a GNU distribution to have the Linux binaries on a Windows system. At this point, I can run Vagrant up. And in case you're curious, I'll open up the Oracle VirtualBox console, and you'll see that I only have 2 inactive systems right now. So what you'll see over the next minute is that it will create the master node, which is now up and running. Now, each of these systems, I'm giving two virtual CPUs and 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now, a little background on what's happening here. While this is spinning up, the first thing it does is it creates a new Ubuntu 14.04 server. And then, based on the Vagrant file, you can see here, once it creates the master node, it will synchronize a folder that has all of the files from this directory that have been cloned. And after it's completed all of that, it will run a bootstrap-master.sh file. Now, let me show you that briefly. The bootstrap file will update the apt cache and then use apt-get to install unzip, python pip, and python dev. It will then use pip to install Ansible, so that gets me a very recent version of Ansible. And then it changes the permissions on the id_rsa file. Now this is based on Vagrant's insecure key. So it's just a matter of convenience, since this is all running on my local machine, to be able to easily access this host. So after that finishes, which it did up here, I know that I now have a master node running, and you'll see that it's already begun to create my data 1 node. Now the data 1 node, you'll see it's already done. It didn't have to do as much setup because I wasn't running my bootstrap script on there. I don't need to install Ansible, since Ansible is an agentless system, a mechanism. And once I have Ansible installed on the master, it can automatically communicate with and do whatever it needs to communicate or configure these others. So it's already configured data 1, and you can see now that it's working hard on data 2, which should be up and running shortly. Okay, so that's it. So at this point, we now have our 3 servers all set up and running on this system, ready to go. Now, the next part of the quick start, you'll notice it says use the commented lines in bootstrap master.sh to do the following. We want to run the Ansible playbook, format the HDFS name node, start DFS in Yarn, and then run an example job. So those are available here. And there are various reasons I don't have them just run by default. One is that I can't run this Ansible playbook until the other two data nodes are done. And since that's going to run right at the end of this Vagrant script, we leave that as a manual thing. So let's connect to our master node. So here we are on Hadoop master, and we want to change into our source directory, and we can see all of our files, including our playbook. So let's copy this command and run our playbook. So now if you're unfamiliar with Ansible, I'll describe a little bit about what's happening here. Ansible is going out and first making sure that it can communicate with each server, and then it's running through a series of tasks that correspond to roles which I've said I want run on each server. So I have a common role which needs to run on every single server, and another common type role that I've created for this particular demonstration is an Oracle Java 8. So in other words, let me just show you what that looks like. So I have common tasks. I have Oracle Java 8, which is also common because I need Java on every system, but it seemed to make sense to separate that out and deal with it as a separate role. And then there's a master role. So the two data nodes will only get common and Oracle Java 8, and the master node will get common, master, and Oracle Java 8. So what you see back there is, and it's done now with the master node, it went through and ran all three of those roles, and now it's working on the two data nodes. So the data nodes are being configured to have the right users, the right permissions, the right keys, and so on. And this includes, by the way, installing Hadoop. So this is installing and configuring Hadoop based on our desired setup. Now, once you set these up, the scripts, and you're free to dig into these scripts, but the scripts are largely parameterized around a list of hosts. So in other words, if you wanted to do more or fewer hosts, it's very easy to go in and simply add lines in the hosts file and one or two other places, and those will bleed out into as many machines as you want. So if you wanted to set up a 100-node cluster, all you'd have to do are add each of those to the hosts file, so Ansible knows where to configure them, and then a group vars file in Ansible so that as Ansible is running its scripts, it can create the slaves file and a few other things like that. And you'll see some of these tasks take a little while, like the installing Oracle Java 8 does take 15 or 20 seconds per server. So I suppose that's not a long time. And maybe while this is installing, it's a good thing to point out. The reason I wanted to create this video is that I see a lot of people manually installing Hadoop, and I think that there's a lot of benefit to automating it. Okay, so you can see here now I have Hadoop completely installed, and I should be able to now change over to the Hadoop user, and we want to format the name node. Oops, I must not have copied. Format the name node, and at which point we're now ready to start DFS. So now DFS should be running, and we should be able to come in here and look at our data nodes. And once we open this up, if we click on data nodes, we can see that the Hadoop master, as well as Hadoop data 1 and Hadoop data 2, are all in operation and active as data nodes. So the next thing we want to do is start yarn. So we copy that and run this. So now yarn's running, And we should be able to use the slaves.sh helper script that comes as part of Hadoop to see that all of the Java processes we expect to be running on each of the nodes are in fact running. And we should be able to come in now and see our nodes. Okay, so if we come in here, we can see that we have 3 running nodes, and we currently have no applications. So let's do the last thing, which is run a MapReduce, and we're using the MapReduce examples. We're going to calculate pi and use a relatively small footprint. So I run Hadoop, and while this sets up and builds the map jobs and so on, let me come over here and show you that that job now shows up here, and it will show you the progress as it goes. You obviously can also follow along in this window over here, where it pulls periodically and shows you the progress of map and reduce. Now, in this interface, you can also come in and see all of the containers that are running as part of this execution. Right now we're down to 1 because we're getting close to the end of processing. And now you can see that it's done and the progress is at 100%. And it printed out the answer for us that pi is very close to 3.16. So that's it. It was just a few minutes to clone the repository, create 3 new servers, use Ansible to install and configure Hadoop. We started the Hadoop services and we ran an example MapReduce job. So go ahead and fork the repository, create your own Hadoop cluster, and watch for the next tutorial, which will show you how to run this exact same Ansible script against cloud provisioned hardware to create a Hadoop cluster in the cloud. Thanks.